I thought this one would be a bit unique. We'd come together and have three of us talking. So
Excellent.
Raju, you're CEO of EHP International, which is Enhancing Human Potential.
That's right. That's
And
right.
and Nick, you work for VP
Yeah.
Consultants. So
Yep.
that is also a very similar business to Raju. You guys are actually partnering up quite often.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Always looking forward to the partnering up.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think that was what I remembered when I was back in Bangkok, and we actually worked really closely together when I was at Six Senses.
Yeah.
We were
Yeah.
getting into those sessions together on leadership, working with high potential hosts to
Yes.
future
Yeah.
leaders, future supervisors, managers, and
Yeah.
covering all of those skills, not just the technical skills, but the soft
Yeah.
skills that I think are really important for leaders
Yeah.
and people who manage other people.
That's right.
Yeah, but it's relevant everywhere because I mean, when one comes up through the ranks, we know a lot of the technical aspect of doing things, but once you come up through the ranks, then leadership becomes a whole different ballgame. And to equip them, Raju, I'm sure you would agree too, and Sean, it's always fun to equip them with the ability to now elevate their game to be able to manage people and not simply doing only the technical things that they're used to. That was fun.
But what do you think? I mean, people are saying now that, well, do you need employees? We're starting to automate everything. Everyone's speaking about AI agents and automation and AI, and maybe you don't need as many people. So, what are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts, very simply, is I have to protect the domain of business that I'm doing. So I will rightly say, no, you need people. But having said that, to be really objective, yes, there are definitely certain areas in business where you don't need as many people because you can obviously improve efficiency by automating certain portions of it. And besides, the human beings that we have at work today as compared to 20 years ago, the people have changed themselves. So if you give them too many monotonous, repetitive type of jobs, they get bored very easily anyway. That's why you have a lot of people moving out and saying, "Oh, I want to be a influencer and I want to be an entrepreneur myself." So a lot of people want to do that. They don't want to be taking orders while they've been told to sit at a desk and just do the same thing again and then again and again. So, in answer to your question, yes, certain jobs, I think we can reduce the number of people, but doesn't mean we get rid of these people. It just means we put them to better use in other areas. So,
Yeah.
my 2 cents on that particular question. Nick, anything
Mm.
from you?
So I always have a thought about this because it's a hot topic nowadays.
Yeah.
And I believe that if a company has any process that's mapped out, that's set in stone, written out, you do one, you do two, you do three, those are the tasks that will get automated using bots and all these AI tools. When it comes to the work that has to deal with people, you're interacting with people and you're influencing one of your managers to buy your idea, or you want to create a psychologically safe environment in your company, all those things are still going to be very much people focused. So boiling down to if it's mapped out process, yeah, perhaps that'll be automated and then gives more growth, more room for those to upskill themselves, as Raju said. So there's always a place for both to coexist for the time being. Let's see how far it goes because I just came across one article that actually showed that they have human structured like AI, and you can have a chat with it. It gives you all the information. So it's very much human like somebody in the office sitting down helping you out. Now, it's very infant at that stage, but then again, long time to go to get that up and running and see somebody physically sitting there.
I was just having a conversation earlier about, these robot restaurants where you have a robot serving you. Like in the
Yeah,
shopping mall, I think it was in Central World in Bangkok. There's a barista.
yeah,
I don't know if you've seen the kiosk there, where you just
yeah,
pay and it's just arms and it just goes and does
yeah,
everything and creates the coffee for you. And that
yeah,
seems like that could be a
yeah,
barista job killer, to be honest.
yeah, yeah,
And then
yeah.
There's the robot restaurant, where you start to see servers coming around with the trays. Obviously, a
Yeah,
human has put the food on the tray and it's made its
yeah,
way, but it actually, I'm starting to see that much more in lots of restaurants because they are dealing with staffing challenges, and
yeah,
they figure they buy one of these machines and it actually helps reduce the amount of people
yeah,
in the restaurant. Looking at the corporate side, I know you work with a lot of the top corporate companies
yeah.
across Asia and the Middle East.
Hmm.
um, I was at Salesforce myself, as you know, and there's a big drive right now for Agent Force. That's their big push right now, where you can
Yeah,
have automated bots basically answering customer service questions and actually
yeah,
triggering actions. So it's not just putting in an input and get a response back, but it's also creating an outcome where it maybe goes and updates the file, or it sends you an
yeah,
email. And they're talking about sales development reps, like actually
yeah.
replacing some of the sales development reps, or at least augmenting them with some
Hmm.
AI that can do automated phone
Hmm.
calls and do
Hmm.
that outbound outreach to qualify
Hmm.
people. So it seems to be accelerating quite a bit, and I think
Hmm.
looking back in previous generations, there are these transformative things like the internet and social
Hmm.
media, and leaders do have to adapt. And
Yeah,
so when you're talking with your customers, are
yeah.
you seeing different kinds of training or different kinds of advice they're looking for that they think their leaders need to be prepared for?
I think one of the things that I see coming a lot is they all know that they have to use AI in some form or the other. But there's still this uncertainty or even not clear what exactly that is. They know they have to use AI. What it is, some places are clear, some companies are not clear about it. But the first thing that they know is that it'll impact them. So change, being able to accept that change, being able to drive that change, and being able to land at a new place where AI is already installed. So that's something that they're continuously looking at how to approach it so that everybody can move together. So that's something that they've raised quite a lot. Um, the one thing that, in fact, I want to ask you, both of you, Sean and Raju, is I get this feedback from time to time. Yes, AI. But then there's still a certain amount of trust. You know, can one completely trust it? That's a question I would ask. I mean, you're going to use AI, but can you completely trust the responses it gives you in a corporate level where decision making is critical and important? What are your thoughts around that?
I'm Sean, so I'm going to leave it to you to
Yeah.
answer that one.
Yeah,
uh,
I mean, I was recently having a conversation with a professor, right, at Georgia Southern University, and we were saying how years ago, when you met a stranger, did you automatically believe 100% of what that person said to you? You probably took it with a grain of salt until you got to know them,
Yeah.
and trust takes a bit of
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
But people do get a bit lazy, and they say, well, if I just ask the question of this automated technology, this chatbot, I'll just take it as fact. Or if
Yeah.
I go to Facebook and I see some news article, I take it as fact. Our leaders today, are they being prepared for an environment in
Mm,
which
mm,
convenience may outweigh critical thinking? And I think
mm,
to me, that's a concern we were talking about, to say,
mm,
are the people that are in leadership positions today and seeing the next generation come up, are they preparing
mm,
people for that idea of how to, yes, adapt to the change, adapt to the
mm,
technology, and know what is AI and how is it going to
mm,
impact our company, but also
mm,
what are some of the softer skills that they need to be thinking about in order to
mm.
govern and manage things in this
Yeah.
environment where you're not sure what is truth, and do you have privacy, and how do we deal with my customers' concerns around these topics?
Yeah.
Like, what do you think, Roger? What's your thinking when
I
it comes to the soft skill side?
my take is this, and you're absolutely right when you mentioned that even when we meet people for the first time, you don't necessarily trust them 100% on the
Mm,
spot. Even though they may have been highly recommended, you still kind of take it in as an option to consider.
mm,
I think with
mm,
AI, it's the same thing. All this kind of online information that you get, you cannot just blindly trust everything because, I mean, as we know nowadays, the media, also flares up a lot of information.
mm,
How much do you
mm,
believe? And it's very
mm,
individual. So you might believe 60%, I might only believe 50%. So that's up to
mm,
us. I just feel that the scary thought is that with this whole kind of drive towards AI, we are going to end up losing personal touch in everything, every business that's happening. That's why my earlier comment was there's certain tasks. Yes, it's required. You need to automate it. You need to have AI. You need to, make it so that it is consistent. Make sure that it is efficient, but don't lose out on the personal touch. And I think that's one of the things that leaders need to think about is, do we want to automate everything? Do we want to AI everything 100%? Or do we want to keep the room for, hey, there has to be a personal touch because our customers need to connect with
mm,
us and not just with the product or with the information that they're getting. So that's my fear. And I think um, rightly, as you said, Sean, we come across new technology all the time, and it
mm,
takes time to get used to it. So, fair enough. Um, who knows? Maybe AI will come and outrun everything else. My fear is just that personal touch portion, right?
I
We're
think
going to lose
it's
from the passion.
Yeah, I think it's powerful to be able to have these like a system of intelligence, I'll call it, or a system of outcomes where you say, I need this done, and it does it for you. And it
Yeah,
doesn't just give you an answer, but it actually takes some kind of action and helps you get it done. Well, that's going to
right.
lower the cost of a lot of things and
Yeah,
mm,
democratize the ability for smaller
mm,
companies to do what large companies do, or
right.
for
mm.
people in countries that are developing do something that's maybe in a developed country much easier and reach a greater
Yeah.
impact faster. I mean, the fact that three
Mm,
of us are here and we can talk
yeah.
live in real time,
Yeah.
that's completely different than when we were kids, right? I mean, you had to
Yeah.
send a letter and mail it out, and you would hope somebody would get the letter, and
Yeah.
Yeah,
maybe
you have to
Yeah.
hope they
maybe weeks later they would
Yeah.
send it back to you with a response.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
Yeah.
there's a generation now that's come behind us that sometimes texting
Yeah.
is more important than phone call. So I think
Yeah.
it depends on the generation. It depends on what people value. I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
for me, I like if I can find a nice experience or human connection, I find that
Yeah.
much more valuable sometimes than the convenient part. Yes, sometimes you
Yeah.
just want an answer, you want convenience.
yeah,
Yeah.
uh, when we were working together at Six Senses, you
Yeah.
have customers that would say, "Well, I could go to a very convenient hotel and have a night's
Yes.
rest, and that's enough,"
Yes.
or
Yes.
I could detach from,
Mm,
all
mm,
the stresses of
mm.
life and go to an isolated environment that's giving me a really unique and local kind of experience.
Yeah.
That will give me a nice memory that I can look back on. And that's a very different value prop, let's say, than
yeah,
just hey, I've got a bed, and no matter where you go in the world, it's the same bed
Yeah.
kind of thing, or the same food, or the same product. So I
Yeah.
think there'll be a need for all of it still.
yeah,
So,
yeah, exactly. Like we were one
yeah.
is in-room dining.
Yeah.
There are some hotels where you order a bottle of wine or something from in-room dining, and you have a robot that delivers it to you.
Yeah.
And those are
Experience. Yeah.
those are times when I feel, yeah, I really don't want to be, disturbed by anybody. The machine brings it in, the robot brings it in,
Yeah.
fantastic, quick, efficient, and it
Yeah.
usually is much faster than humans bringing it.
Yeah.
Right? But
Yeah.
having said that, do all the functions need to be automated? And that's my whole theory of we need to find that balance. Sorry, Nick,
Yeah.
I cut you off earlier. You were going to say something.
Yeah, no, it's actually along the same lines, and just building on to what Sean said as well, critical thinking versus the convenience of data that we have that these bots build on. So we're thinking from the perspective of us at this generation, at this age. But think about the workforce coming up, the Gen Zs. Are leaders planning for that generation to be able to equip themselves with both the critical thinking and the capability of using data and analyzing it? Because I think that's going to be the key focus point after a few years. And what is it that this generation prefers, the Gen Zs? prefers in, the way they communicate, the way they get data, the way they analyze data? Is it basically just simply based on convenience of getting data from the AI,
Yeah.
or would they actually like the experience as well? I think we also have to look at that level,
Mm.
right? So at that level, do they want the experiences that we're talking about,
Yeah.
or do they want the convenience?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
based on our past experience, we know Gen Zs are looking at more the data portion of it, the
Mm,
quick analysis part of it, rather than the
mm,
personal touch.
mm,
But having said that, that's where my fear comes in, is it's dying out. The
mm,
personal touch, personal interactions, the understanding of people
mm,
is become less and less. Um,
mm,
I don't know if that's the right way to go, but having said that, that is something that leaders need to think about. Which direction do we want? Because one of the things that I'm hearing a lot right now is you have all these AI deep fakes and stuff that are coming out. Scary, because one ad I saw recently, or one clip that I saw recently, was that an elderly couple receiving a call from their daughter way out living somewhere else. The face is her daughter, the voice is her daughter, but it's a fake. And you go
mm,
like, okay, so now that's
mm.
the scary portion. All right.
Yeah,
I mean, I can
yeah,
understand if only the voice, or only but the face, the everything is the same.
It's all
And
packaged together.
yeah,
yeah, so like, how do I know whether this is really
yeah.
true? So we
Hmm.
need to start having secret codes. Okay, Nick, you remember a year ago when I told you this? What did you say to me at that time? Now I know it's Nick.
We make a joke about it, but actually, when I was in LA last November, I got together with my mother and my sister. I said, "Come over here. What's the secret password in case I need to contact you and verify this is actually you on the
You,
video?" So yeah,
yeah,
um,
yeah,
so I won't share our secret word, but yeah, we definitely thought about, how does she know? People, especially when they're, close to 70s, 80s,
yeah,
they
yeah.
may question automatically. They may not question,
They may not question.
be as discerning as we might be when we're looking at
Yeah.
Yeah,
things. You both work with corporate organizations. You're dealing with people at the top leadership level that are
yeah,
running the HR and learning and
yeah,
development departments and
yeah.
CEOs. And what are the
Mm,
big needs that you're seeing from your customers around this to address this? How do we deal with this new reality, frankly, this digital reality that's changing all of our lives?
mm,
In my case, more than the digital aspect of it, what I'm finding is the competitive aspect. They're finding that their competition has become a lot more. And that could be related to the AI factor, because a lot of companies
mm,
are coming up with the same kind of products, the same kind of things, much quicker, much faster, um, much easier. So my clients, a lot of them are really worried about the competitive aspect of it. And that's why we need to keep going back to their salespeople and saying, yes, but that's why you need to be so clear about what
mm,
is the real value that you're providing. You cannot say that my product is my value, because your product has already been cloned 3 days ago. So,
mhm,
like, it's not even tomorrow it'll be cloned. It's been cloned
mm,
already. You know for a fact it is. So what differentiates you? And that's why we keep coming back to, it's still the personal touch. It's still the fact that I am looking out for you. So a lot of the clients I'm talking to, it's more the competitive factor, the economy factor of many countries
mm,
right now, because that's a big challenge.
mm,
They want to buy, but they can't afford to buy as much as they used to buy. So that those two are some of the biggest uh, obstacles that I'm seeing right now, the challenges and issues that clients are facing.
And
Um,
the last time we spoke, you said you were looking into different markets, right? You were looking into the Middle East more, into India. Are you seeing, different learning needs from that part of the world than where you are based in Hong Kong, which is very, very developed
Yeah,
society.
In
Yeah.
Hong Kong, in fact, the business is very minimal. It could be various factors, and I don't usually like talking about political factors, but we do know that US and China and all these things are
Hmm.
still taking place. So I think a lot of companies are still kind of, let's see, let's wait and see what happens. Let's see how everything goes. So in Hong Kong, my expectations right now are like very low. I'm not even focusing that much. Whatever is happening because of previous contacts or clients that have done business with us and they keep coming
Hmm.
back to do a bit more. My focus is, as you rightly said, India right now is on a hold because India is still a very interesting market. For lack of a better word, I'm just going to say interesting market. They want international standards, but they want to pay local prices. So that's definitely not something that we can get into immediately. So we
Hmm.
have to see how we can partner up with the right kind of
Mm.
collaborators there. So
Hmm.
that one is kind of in a thinking phase right now. Um, Dubai, yes, definitely moving ahead. One other area that, or two other areas that we are actually starting to focus more on is the Caribbean islands. St. Martin. We have been contacted by the government, by the Ministry of Tourism, to say they want, because after COVID, a lot of it stopped, a lot of the tourism stopped. Then they had two massive hurricanes, which
Hmm.
totally crashed the tourism market. Now they're starting to pick up again, and they want their people to be able to consistently provide the right level, the right standards. They want people to be aware of what is the message you want. And it goes back to what I was saying earlier about what is the true value you provide. So, as St. Martin, what is the value you're providing, which all
Hmm.
the other islands nearby cannot provide? So, you need to have that competitive edge. So, they're looking at us. So, we're doing a lot more there. We're now getting into West Africa. That's another area where Lisa, my business partner in Middle East, she has a connection there who is very interested to collaborate. She's based out of, well, both Dubai and Accra, Ghana. So they're going to have a conversation. I think they had one yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. But they're looking at what are the possibilities of. So those are the newer markets that we're looking at because the Hong Kongs and the Chinas right now are challenging. Singapore has always been challenging because it seems to be self-sufficient and looking at using internal local resources more than anything else.
Hmm.
And that's where we stand right now.
Hmm. And
Nick,
what about
how are
yourself, Nick? Are you seeing a lot of demand for certain types of training? Like what topics are the ones that are most in demand? Raju's mentioning that it's around
yeah.
competitive differentiation and sales, and has that been your focus recently?
So I would split my client base requirements two main areas, one being in the tech space. If they're in the tech and data space, their requirements typically revolve around a lot about wanting change. The requirements revolve around critical thinking, process mapping. So that's the request that we typically get from the tech space industries. And that's very much AI driven. So that's why that's typically the requirements that they're looking at. Whereas if it's on the other hand, I have a lot of clients who are in the retail space. And the retail space, there is existence of AI, but the requests, the needs coming in is still very much people skills oriented. How do you lead? How do you manage? How do you coach in the retail space? How do you sell in the retail space? So the people oriented skills are still very much vibrant in the retail space for us. And
And
that's most of the requests that we're getting.
how do
Yeah.
you retain staff in the retail
Yeah.
space?
Yeah. Right.
Because that's one of the things people in the retail
Yeah.
space jump around so fast that it's very
Yeah.
hard. So how do you keep as leaders, how do you keep them motivated? How do you keep them
Yeah.
passionate? How do you keep them on in your retail operation? But
And
I had a question for you, Nick. On
yeah.
the tech space, you mentioned that they're looking at all this, obviously the technical stuff. But
Yeah.
I'm also getting requests from tech space where they still
Mm,
want people to be more people oriented. They feel they are heavily into
mm,
the tech space,
mm,
which
mm.
they're going to improve and do and all
Yeah.
that, but they
Yeah.
are less able to communicate with people
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
such.
Yeah.
So is that something you're coming across?
Yes, yes, it's still there. The request is still there. How do I lead my team?
Yeah,
How do I manage my team? Those are those essential people skills in the tech or retail space will still be very vibrant
right,
because you
right.
can only automate so much at the current time.
Yes,
Um, and I think going back to where we started with the discussion, AI and people, they're still going to coexist in a
yeah,
corporate. We're just going to have to map and see how both work together. And when I say tech and retail, and this goes across actually all my clients around the region, same similar request is coming in. For example, in the retail space, how do you outdo your competition is by providing better service.
yeah,
And by providing better service, again, falls back on the person who is selling.
yeah,
So similar requests, that
yeah,
has not changed.
yeah,
So I know you guys are always on the road traveling and on airplanes, for years. Are you
Yeah,
seeing a movement towards different types of delivery, whether it's e-learning or do something that's very tailored to the customer, which is obviously providing a
yeah,
very high value, but I
yeah,
think there's also the individuals, maybe the
yeah,
consumers that maybe they're thinking about being, either getting into leadership or their leaders already and they want to understand, how they
yeah.
can improve and learn and, build upon their own development plans. Is that something you do today? Is it something you're looking to get into? How do you address that type of
I
customer?
think I think Raju and me have had a conversation around this quite a lot. I mean, it. This is my feeling. Raju, please echo if you have same thought or a different thought. My
right.
feeling is yes, it sounds good. We've thought about is there any way we can, e-learning or something that's got to do with automation for what we do. That's something that we are trying to drive. But when, at least for me, when I go and talk to my clients, that request is still there. Can you come in? Can you do it for us in person?
It's that
Can we leave?
experience, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's the experience. Can you leave that whole automation part? Okay, fine, we look at it when there is, but can you just do it for us?
yeah,
It's still very much about that face-to-face delivery, and that's what is happening on my end, Raju. I don't know
yeah.
how, yeah,
No, no, I totally agree with that. I think here's the thing. A lot of times nowadays you look at the clients who are calling us, they're talking about their target audience who is already facing computers all day long. And then you
yeah,
want them to come in for a training program that's also computer
Sitting in
based.
front of a computer.
yeah, yeah,
And
exactly.
like, okay, this is tiring. Plus, everyone has come to, well, the ones that we speak to have come to agree that e-learning is fantastic because it gives you the flexibility. It gives you,
Mhm.
you
Yeah,
can do it at your own time. You know what is the one biggest ingredient missing is discipline. People don't have that discipline that, oh, I
yeah,
need to do this every day, 1 hour. Because
Mhm.
by the time I come home from looking at my screen for 8 hours, I really don't want to look at the screen again for an hour.
yeah,
Yeah.
So that
yeah,
interaction, creating the fun atmosphere, having some games, having some discussions with people, that actually creates the difference in the program.
yeah,
So during COVID, I think we had no choice. That's why
yeah,
people had to
Yeah.
go for it. I think now a lot of my clients are coming back and saying, I'm glad COVID is over. We don't have to do online anymore. Can we go back to doing face to face?
So it's
There,
about
yeah,
it's about that experience, right? It's about
yeah,
going back to whether it's an experience in retail, you're walking
yeah,
into a store, you want to
yeah,
have that memorable experience, or like I mentioned, the hotel experience. You want
yeah,
to have
yeah,
something that's memorable and makes it
yeah,
feel, to your point, Raju, it's a competitive differentiation. If you can
yeah,
create an
yeah,
experience that no one else can, which makes
yeah,
you unique and makes your
yeah,
yeah,
company unique,
yeah.
then I think people will always keep coming back, right? And that's
yeah,
what it seems like that's what they're doing with you guys
Yeah.
because
yeah,
you have that expertise. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's
AI
great.
or no AI, I think the most complicated subject on earth has always been, is now, and is always going to be people.
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 Yes, I would agree
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah.
Well, I think
Yeah.
maybe we'll leave it with that. I think that that's a great takeaway is keep the people in mind.
Yeah.
Remember that no matter how automated things become, we
Yeah.
have to remember that human to human connection.
Yeah.
Yes.
Remember that it takes people to get things done. Yes, we
Yeah.
can automate maybe some of the lower value work, maybe even some of the
Yeah.
higher value work.
Yeah.
But if you want to be different and unique, there is only one Raju and there's only one Nick. So, and there's only one of me. So,
Yep.
hopefully we've taught everybody something on this call, or at least sparked some conversation. So, I
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
appreciate your time and look forward to reconnecting again soon.